My brothers and sisters in Christ, today the Church celebrates the memorial of Saint Scholastica. And what a beautiful saint day to celebrate in light of the kind of liturgical occasion surrounding this feast day that falls on this Wednesday of the 5th week in Ordinary Time this year. But just this past week, we celebrated the World Day for Consecrated Life. In fact, Cardinal DiNardo celebrated the annual Mass for Consecrated Life on Sunday. And in our weekday readings from the Gospel of Mark, we've been hearing the dispute between Jesus and the Pharisees about the nature of the ritual purity laws and the sense of what renders one unclean, as opposed to the laws of Torah, which dictated not only dietary law, but the purity rituals and what things contact with could render someone ritually unclean. And today, in one of the more dramatic passages of the entire gospel, Jesus, in a sense, declares, despite the fact that the passage explicitly says Jesus thus rendered all foods clean, it was so much more than just food. In a sense, he overturned the purity law of the externals, reversing it to the reflection on the nature of sin itself. In a sense, external things, touch, all this, these do not render a person unclean. Sin is what renders a person unclean. In a sense, God is not looking at these exteriors, but he's looking at the charity or lack thereof that motivates the human heart. This is what truly matters in the debate of clean and unclean. And so we've heard this, and I had preached yesterday on the sense of legalism and a false legalism, pitting the rule of law versus the spirit of the law, when in fact the two are together. The spirit of the law gives form to the rule of law, and we must follow the rule of law motivated by the fullness of the spirit of the law. In a sense, the two work together. And so this is the reason why I find it beautiful that Saint Scholastica's day falls on this occasion. Saint Scholastica, the 6th century saint, is the twin sister of the more famous Saint Benedict. And so while Benedict and his rule of Saint Benedict, in a sense, was foundational for the Benedictine monks, Saint Scholastica, his sister, founded the Benedictine nuns, founded her own convent for consecrated virgins. And so these two lives were beautifully intertwined, and they were therefore kind of rocks for medieval and then ultimately modern monasticism for both men and women in this Benedictine rule. But the beautiful witness, and most of what we know about Saint Scholastica comes from the writings of Saint Gregory the Great, which he in turn got from some of Saint Benedict's contemporaries. But the one beautiful account that's very colorful from their lives tells about the end of life for Saint Scholastica. And Saint Scholastica, because of the rule of Saint Benedict, that you could only leave, in a sense, the cloister, or leave the community for one day a year could you emerge, to associate with family to visit. But of course, in the monastery, women were not allowed. And so St. Benedict and St. Scholastica had a mutual issue of how to visit each other. And so they would meet in between. His monastery and her convent were about 5 miles apart. And so they would once a year meet at a farmhouse in the middle. St. Benedict would bring some of his brothers with him, and she would come meet them. And so at the end, she knew the end of her life was near, and they met. And they, of course, got together and talked about the spiritual life and all kind of beautiful things. Had a wonderful day's visit. And the story is told that at the end of the day, sensing that this was going to be her last visit with him, she begged him to stay longer with her. And he, of course, told her, no, the rule doesn't allow it. I'm not allowed to be gone overnight. Can't do this, sister, I must go. And at that point, Scholastica is said to have muttered a prayer to God, at which point a violent thunderstorm rose that prevented Benedict and his brothers from leaving. And Benedict, realizing this, said famously, sister, what have you done? May God forgive you. And she said, I asked you, and then I asked God, and God in his generosity provided what you would not. And St. Gregory makes this beautiful commentary that says she could accomplish more because she loved more. At that moment, Benedict was concerned more by the rule of law than love of his sister. And in that moment, her great love, God answered her prayer. And so we're told that they had to stay the night there. They went back 3 days later. St. Benedict saw a dove circling and then rising into heaven, and knew at that moment that his sister had died. Sent his brothers forth, who recovered her body and brought her and buried her in his own tomb there at the monastery. So anyway, it's a beautiful story of the lives of the saints. But that tagline at the end of a colorful story, God granted the prayer, she could accomplish more because she loved more. What a beautiful commentary on this question of the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. We honor both. But as Jesus points today, ultimately, the law that matters most is the law of love. All of the law, the precepts of God are given to cultivate the spirit of charity for him and for our neighbor. And so, through the intercession of Saint Scholastica, may we be more and more faithful to the law of love. May we accomplish more because we love more. May God bless you.